Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. I'm your host, Jordan Samuel Fleming, chairman of Smartphone.io, the only phone system built for real estate investors, and of course, author of Click, Call, Save, the real estate investor's ultimate phone system playbook. Well, today's episode is super fun with Caleb Christopher from creativetc.io. Really interesting conversation. I tell you what, Caleb gave me probably one of the most illustrative examples of what creative finance and where it's applicable that I've ever had. Most people most times I talk to it, it's you're still kind of left a little wondering. With Caleb actually really zeroed in on where it's applicable and why it works and what it really does enter you into in terms of a longer term relationship and agreement. Really, really good conversation around that. He's a guy with many, multiple businesses. Not only does he have Creative TC, which is servicing the creative finance kind of transactions, he's also building his own creative finance friendly title companies as well. Because of course it is a different kind of game, and we dive into why it's slightly different, to why some of the traditional models of underwriting and of title companies don't work as well because they don't understand it as well. And it's both a really great view into when you can start thinking about creative and why it's applicable, but it's also a really great view of how you can get started and how you can kind of scale up using it. So I'm really grateful for Caleb coming on. I think we're going to do a lot of things together as well, and I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. So without any delay, let's dive into my conversation with Caleb Christopher from creativetc.io. And I'm here live with Caleb Christopher. Caleb, welcome to the podcast. It's great to meet you. Why don't you give everyone a little sense of who you are and what you're focused on?
Excellent. Thank you. So I live in a basement in Kansas and I work remote jobs. So I started a couple of companies to fill what wasn't there for me when I got into real estate. So I've built my niche on creative finance. And so the first company is Creative TC, and we do consulting on creative finance deals, subject to seller finance, wraparound mortgages, really complex stuff. That's where I like to live every day. So I built that company first, and I saw a need for title companies that understood the complexities of investor transactions. And so we just finished raising $320,000 as our seed fund to start a title company in Colorado, and we'll expand later.
Okay, well, that's going to be interesting as well, because that's always, I think with so many investors I speak to that are certainly in my customer base, there's a lot, I would say the vast majority are wholesalers, flippers, that kind of vein. And I've always seen creative finance as something that is very much in the minority of the conversations that I hear on a day-to-day basis. That's one of the reasons I actually had Chris Prefontaine on a little bit ago, and he talked with his real estate coaching company. He talks, they're very focused on creative. And so it's great to kind of bring this, continue to bring this to the foreground. Can you give a little kind of dive in? Okay, let's go. Why did you focus on this? Let's just talk about the creative element at the beginning before we go to the title. Why did you focus on it? What does it bring to you? Why is this something that is, giving you a leg up?
Creative scratches an itch that I have, an intellectual itch. I like variety of duties. When I was in IT, that's part of my history. I liked IT admin. That's a generic title because every single day brought new stuff. Creative finance is the same way. It scratches a really strong itch for me because you just come to me and say, hey, I've got this seller in this situation. They're in pre-foreclosure, A, B, C, D, E. These are all the moving parts. And I'm like, thank you. More variables, please. Let's lay it all out. Everything's cascading. If you do this, then 7 things change. I love that stuff. So creative finance scratched that itch for me. And so should I define sub 2?
Sure.
Can I do that? Okay. Sub 2 is the primary way we do creative finance. There's lots of other ways and components, but a lot of times I'm buying Jordan's house and I'm taking over his payments. I get the deed. I make his payments. His loan stays in place. So if your neighbor has to sell, or if they're in pre-foreclosure, you're like, how about I give you $10,000 and just take over your payments? I'm oversimplifying for the sake of how do you even get into one of those deals. But let me tell you this. Every real estate you've ever bought, house, whatever, is sub 2. It's sub 2 because, Jordan, if the utility company comes and digs up your yard, or can you do anything about it? Probably not. If as long as they stay in their right of way or their easement, you bought the property subject to an easement or a right of way of a utility company, of an HOA, of a city, of whatever. So every piece of real estate bought and sold today is pretty much subject to something. The only thing we do in creative finance is we add the mortgage to the list of things that it's taken subject to. So if the bank has a problem with it and wants to accelerate the loan or whatever the loan terms are, they can be applied against the house and against you. And you really don't have a claim against title insurance for that thing. That's sub 2 in a box.
And can I add, like, so one of the things that I've had people ask me, and being someone who doesn't, doesn't do these kind of deals,
Mm.
what I never have a good answer to this, and maybe I'll finally get one that you can tell me and I can give people. But a lot of times when I speak to traditional wholesalers, flippers, people who are kind of working on a daily basis on the deals using our platform, they're looking for buy boxes of the normal death, divorce, debt, blah, those boxes. Are they the same for a creative? Is there anything different you look for, or is there any driver that is outside what I would class the typical investor box that says, actually, because of these circumstances, it's probably a really good option?
That's a really good question and a really good way to look at this. I would say, so what I always tell people, and I've been doing this for years, what I always tell people is cash, realtor, keeping it. Rule out those 3 things before you go creative. Creative finance is weird. It's not normal. Okay, so if there's a cash offer and that works, do that. Absolutely. Be done with it. Creative finance is like an entanglement. You're stuck with multiple people who you may or may not want to be stuck with for a while. Okay, so cash first. If the MLS works, great, do that. If it didn't sell, if they don't like realtors, they can't show, it won't pass inspection. You have plenty of reasons, but you want to talk to the seller and find out their reason why the cash offer doesn't work, their reason why the MLS doesn't work, and their reason why they don't want to keep it. If they can give you those reasons, you have a viable conversation for a creative finance deal. So it's more about the story than it is about the seller/equity position, etc. That's chief, top of the food chain. You need to understand that there's a story behind every deal, or there's not a deal. After that, now I'm looking probably low equity or high equity. Those are the 2 big swingers. Somewhere in the middle, there's probably a cash offer that would work, probably. And it's also hard to make up the difference. When somebody has $100,000 of equity, they're not going to take a $5,000 down payment and $80 a month. They're just not. And so I would consider that I push that into more of the high equity category. If there's an opportunity to treat the existing loan like a bridge loan, hey, listen, I'm going to repair the property, make it premium. We're going to make it premium, and we're going to sell it for top dollar. I'm going to make your payments in the meantime. I'm going to pay you to move out. You're going to give me the deed, and I'll get it sold within 6 or 8 months, top of the market, and I want to use careful wording here, but in short, we'll share the profits, right?
Yeah, very careful wording on that.
I'm keeping it simple for the conversation purposes, but the paperwork is much more specific than we'll split profits. Don't do that.
No, let me ask a couple follow-up questions on that, actually, because so is this a good scenario? Stories tell. So
Right.
is this a good scenario where you would say creative would work? Where like the difference between, or I'll give you 2 scenarios. One, I've got a traditional scenario where, I don't know, the husband got sick and medical bills are mounting and they need cash and an out. That would be a scenario where the traditional cash offer is king probably for them because they're looking to get out quick, I'd imagine,
Probably.
versus maybe one where the immediate cash isn't as needed. And what is a story that you would
I've
hear?
got one.
What's a typical story that would point you to creative?
A lot of times we see pre-foreclosure, somebody who's behind on payments, and they, if they either don't have enough time to sell the house, so they're going to lose it, right? At an auction, if the house is worth this much, it'll auction for this much. Period, end of story. And if their equity is this much, they don't get anything. So when it auctions for that low price, they also may have a deficiency judgment if it sells for less than what's owed. So they're in a pretty crappy situation. Meanwhile, I can say, listen, I'll catch up your payments. I understand you're 18 months behind at $2,000 a month. That's a freaking ton of money. I got to come out of my pocket to get up there. Technically, what's happening, if we zoom out a little bit, it's the same thing as me giving you that money and you making a payment on the mortgage for that amount. So you need to anchor that with sellers, because when you say I'm going to give you $4,000, I'm not giving you $4,000. I'm giving you 18 times 2, 36, plus the 4 in your pocket. You're walking away with 4, but I paid 40 to you or on your behalf to the mortgage company. And so that's a situation where usually it's behind on payments. We catch up the payments and then we keep it current from there. And they're like, well, what if you don't make the payments? What incentive do I have to not make the payments after I drop $40,000 plus repairs and holding costs and et cetera? Like, I've got skin in the game here, and this can go to foreclosure, which is on your credit, but I also lose the asset. I'm in the business of making money, renting properties out to people, whatever that business is. So you don't need to be shady or sneaky with these people. That's why I'm telling you, disqualify Cash Realtor and keeping it, because now you're working together on a solution. Hey, this is what I can do for you. Here's my incentive. Here's your incentive. Your credit gets saved. Guess what? A performing mortgage, which I'm going to give you, I'm going to perform on your mortgage.
Still
That's
on your
better
credit.
on your credit. That's right.
Your
That's better
credit
for your
is
credit.
actually going to improve by me paying your
That's
debt,
right.
and by me being regular with your mortgage payment. I'm actually boosting your credit.
The age of an account is really important, and the payment history is really important. And so the sooner we catch you up and start resuming that, the age of this account counts toward the improvement of your credit. That's huge. I'll tell you a story. I picked one up in Pueblo, Colorado, 3.625% interest rate. The story was they already tried to sell on the MLS. Okay. Cash offer. Okay. So Cash Realtor keeping it. Cash offer doesn't work because it's worth what's owed. $213,000. They had it listed for $225,000. They could have come out of pocket a little bit. I'm getting into step number 2. So the cash offer won't work because a cash offer is going to be $170,000, $180,000. It's not a deal unless you get a discount. Next, Realtor. They already listed on the MLS. They already expired the listing. So 6 months it didn't sell. MLS already failed them. Okay. Keep it. Well, why not keep it? Well, they moved 45 plus minutes away. They just had their first child. They've got jobs that are not in the area. They don't understand landlording. They think it's risky. They don't want to fix toilets. It's not that, but I had to get that stuff from them. I'm not going to impose those things on their story. I want to let them. I can suggest, I can feed, like, I've got some properties
from them.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I was at Thanksgiving dinner, or no, the 4th of July, and they called me. My tenants down the street called me, and the AC was out. I went and fixed it in 30 minutes, so it wasn't a big deal. But I tell that story like it's no big deal. But to them, they're like, oh, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to be a landlord. Great, I'm glad you told me that. So if cash offer won't work, which we know, the realtor already failed you, and keeping it doesn't work for you, here's what I can do. I can take over your payments. I'll turn it into a rental. So this is the story. And part of their story was the wife works in financial services. They already bought another house and they're making payments on 2 houses. So the story develops and it's like, we can't afford to make 2 payments anymore. And I can't
don't want to be
on
landlords.
my history. That's right. So I'm like, okay, my solution for you, let me go underwrite it, because you're coming to me because somebody referred you, because nothing else worked. So I'm going to be honest with you. Here's my spreadsheet. This does not cash flow. That's why nobody bought it yet. It's not even a good investment property. It loses $200 a month. So it's not a deal. Here's what would make it a deal for me. If you paid me $200 every month, instead of the $12 that you're paying now, for 2 years, that would make up the difference. So I can run it as a rental. I'm not making any money for at least 2 years. If it sits vacant, guess who pays? Guess who survived COVID and spent his savings when renters didn't pay? Me, right? So I'm building rapport with them, saying, I can solve your problem. My personal character is on the line. This is what I can do for you. They assigned a $6,000 insurance check to me. There was flooring repairs. Mm-hmm. They let me take over payments with 0 out of pocket to them. and they paid me $200 a month for 2 years. And I helped them. I didn't take advantage of anybody. It simply wasn't a deal if I didn't do some of that stuff. It still hasn't netted me any cash positive over the last 2.5 years. But it's a 3.625% interest rate with 27 years left. That's a deal in a couple of years. That's a sweet smoking deal. And I was able to help people. So I love creative finance for that reason.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation, but I wanted to make sure you knew that Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors, connects to the best-in-class real estate investing CRMs. And because, as it's my show and I am co-founder and chairman of Smartphone, I got some great deals for you. Click the link and take advantage of 5,000 minutes free calling with Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors. Click and call. Close more leads. Back to the show.
That's fantastic. And you know what? I'm in a weird situation where I spend most of my days talking to real estate investment companies, real estate investment people, and I'm not myself an investor. At some point, I'm going to, like, once I sell a smartphone, I'm going to have to just become an investor, because at this point, I got the contacts in every state, and I got the people. But one of the things there's a seedy side of investing, and then there's a good side of investing. And there are assholes, and then there are normal people. And there are bros who want to bro out, for want of a better I don't know how else to say it, right? But you know what I mean. Everybody knows what that is. The bro out guys, and then
they're going to BS anything to get a deal across the line.
Right, yeah. And chances are they're going to be on Instagram posing with something, like a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, or a private plane that they rented for the hour. But one of the things I do like is, and I think this really resonates with me, as I've been in business now for myself for 20 years. I've never, as an adult, worked for anybody. Past my master's and postgraduate stuff. And win-win. Like, I like partnerships, and I like building opportunities where I win, you like. I like it. It suits me, and it feels good. And I like building. I don't like taking shit down. I like building things up. I like building people up, and I like, and what I love about that story and your example is that it's not what some people look at it and say, well, that's not a win. Well, no, it is a win. It's a win for everybody. Everybody gets what they wanted. Everybody goes home not being taken advantage of. And it may not be the traditional, I sold my house for X and I got this. It's a different turn, but it suits them and it suits you.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun part of, you've illustrated that probably better than I've heard it illustrated in a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So,
and that's my real story. That's not a third party story. I'm not bringing in somebody else's and claiming it as my own. I have that property. That's me and those people. They called me, I don't know, 2 years into the deal, and they said, hey, when will this be off our credit? I said, well, we did talk about this. I bought the interest rate. I told you from the beginning, it's not even a deal for 5 years. At that point, I start cash flowing. Everything else is break even. I'm currently negative right now, which is fine. I mean, the other side of this is, look, if I bought an investment property with 20% down, 20% of $200,000 is $40,000. So how long does it take you to earn back that $40,000 in rental income? Yeah. So if I just think of this as a financed down payment, like I'm currently negative $37 a month on this property after property management. That's okay. My total out of pocket after rent and some vacancies and stuff and all that stuff, I'm less than $10K out of pocket over a 2-year period. I'm okay with that. But I understand that coming into the deal. It's still a low equity deal.
How often do you get people, because you are essentially hopping into bed with people?
Yep.
This is a business deal. This is a partnership rather than a transaction. You can a real estate transaction starts and it ends and
done.
We're done, right? This is a partnership. So how often do you face people down the line who maybe it's not, maybe they did understand it, or maybe they didn't, or maybe what was green now feels slightly browner. The grass that felt green at the
Sure.
time because I needed a solution.
Yep.
Well, my life has changed and things are looking pretty good for me. And wait a second, why am I doing this every month? Why is this happening? How often do you find those conversations come up, and how do you find yourself dealing with them?
I think they come up consistently in these sub-2 deals. To be clear, Creative TC helps other people get their deals done. I've done several myself, but my team helps 30 to 50 of these every month. So I see a lot. And I get calls from people 6, 12, 18 months later. Hey, my seller's asking me ABC. It's pretty common. It's okay. Just like I dealt with my sellers. Well, when is our loan going to get paid off? Well, I bought the rate. I told you it's not a deal for 5 years. I just want to reiterate, because we did talk about this. As long as I can keep the rate, I will. So if you need to qualify for another loan, this is a real life situation. Connect your lender to me. I will help explain the situation. This is the same as having at least, as far as they're concerned, for underwriting qualifications and debt to income ratio. Like, I can speak to all that stuff. Thank you. The story has, you've got to manage people actively. So that's setting expectations up front at the beginning. We need good documents, good disclosures. I started my company to help make creative finance safe, legal, and ethical. And that means people understand what they're getting into. There's good documentation, good disclosures. We have conversations. We have the what ifs. After closing, what happens to you? What do you do after closing? Am I actually taking care of you, or am I just taking the deal? Right? That's part of the story, and doing things the right way. And so getting these calls is normal. And if you did it right in the beginning, it's just a reminder. Hey, remember, this is what we set up. Remember, you said you weren't going to be able to do A, B, C, and D if I didn't help you, and you were going to be in foreclosure. Like, you wouldn't even be able to qualify for a loan today anyways if I didn't bring this one back into play. You would have had a foreclosure on your record for 7 years. It's only 2 years later, and you're getting another loan. Not to be a jerk,
You're welcome.
but you're welcome.
Yeah.
Right? You have to remind them of that stuff too. But so it's normal, and it's okay. And usually we can handle it just fine. Every once in a while, you get somebody who's very difficult, and they bring an attorney in. And that's where it's like, all right, if I have enough equity and I can get out of bed by refinancing and going back to break even, it may be easier than dealing with Judy.
Yeah. Well, let's pivot, because I think you did a phenomenal job in explaining this. And the stories you illustrated give a genuinely good glimpse into where this is applicable and how it helps. But now let's pivot to Creative TC, your company, because you... again, when I look at my audience of smartphone customers, we've got about, as I said to you at the beginning, we've got about 2,500 real estate investors who use us on a daily basis. And I'm always trying to bring them resources. I'm always trying to bring them stuff that could help them. So tell me a bit about, the actual Creative TC, the company. How is that going to help the average investor who is maybe looking at doing some creative deals, and either doesn't have the facilities, the documentation, all of that? Give me a nutshell of how you can help them.
Well, I was you in the past. You know what I'm saying to these people? I was you, and I built what wasn't there for me. And so Creative TC is consulting, free 15-minute consults. If you think you've got a creative deal, I'm here to raise the standard and the safety of the industry as a whole. So free 15-minute walk-in appointments at creativetc.io. Because that's not what was there for me, and I think that's the right thing to do for the industry. So if you think you have a deal, if you've received an offer, if you're an agent who's receiving all these sub-2 offers, I can help you understand how to evaluate those. I have a team full of people who I've trained to this top level, and they work directly for me. I'm not using contractors. That's how I can serve you and the industry as a whole. And then I have Creative Title, which we just launched, like I told you, and that's Colorado specific. But we can also help you understand the liens and encumbrances. So I can pull an O&E report nationwide for like $5. I can host escrow-only services for private sale transactions that don't have title insurance. And so I want to bring creative solutions to people's real-life problems. And one thing I want to highlight about title, one of the reasons I got into title was, just like you said, real estate is typically very transactional, has a definite start and a definite stop. Creative finance, not so much. So when a title company does a creative finance closing, they're like, you hit the stop, my name's Bennett, I ain't in it. You sign the documents, I'm out. I understand that closing day is just the beginning of a long-term relationship. It's just a formalization of this relationship. And so I'm there to help. We've got to be.
And are you so with the title, obviously Colorado right now,
Yeah.
but your plans clearly are to expand that. And do you see, do you see this as something that is going to be, what's your trajectory for expansion? Because I could imagine, with my business hat on, I could imagine a number of models where you could expand this with, bringing in some stakeholders in different states that can drive that, et cetera, almost like a franchise model
Yep.
type thing. So what's your view of your expansion for this? Because this is going to be a problem that very few people can solve, or that there are very few solutions that understand it right now.
Right. So title companies are insurance industry. Just to be clear, insurance says no to risk. That's their job, to say no to risk.
That's
And
literally what they do.
yeah. Okay. So some people don't realize that. Title companies are insurance companies. They're an agent for an insurance underwriter. So if you don't understand it, it's risky. A lot of title companies don't understand creative. Therefore, nope, which makes sense. It's not a problem with them. It's just that's not their wheelhouse. And so I'm trying to add capacity to the marketplace for these creative deals. That said, I want to do all the deals, not just creative deals. So bring everything to me. My business model, though, we raise capital and I owe it to my investors. Here's me as an entrepreneur. Caleb will cheat on his own calendar if it's for him all day. But if if I've got other people relying on me, that calendar starts to matter a lot more. And so part of me doing a good job as a business person was creating this back pressure, bringing in investors, casting this vision, and getting them behind me, because now I just got back from a trip at a conference. Guess what? Self-imposed. I'm going to write a trip report so it's in the record so that the people can see where their money's going. So my business model is to make myself accountable for a lot of stuff. We're going to land with existing investors. We have a lot of existing investor relationships, and we're going to grow investor relations. We're going to bring in investor customers for the next 6 to 12 months. Then we'll expand to agents and lenders. So we're not turning that stuff away, but my focus and my marketing focus is on the investors. And so as I build relationships with investors, guess what? There's plenty of people who are like, listen, I do 3 deals a month in Colorado, but I do another 10 in Missouri. Can you open there just to help me out? Sure, let's do it. Right. So I will do some of that expansion to accommodate volume requests from some of those investors. So it'll be a natural outworking.
Organic sort of
Yeah.
growth based on opportunities and deals.
Yeah, as long as it justifies. And my mission that I told everybody I'm doing, I'm going to capture 1.5% of the Colorado market. So I need to not go off mission. But if this adds revenue by just getting some licensing and stepping through some stuff, cool.
Okay. Now, let's pivot a little. I'd like to take another side pivot, because I'm excited to be able to bring people, the smartphone customer base, direct links to Creative TC. But I did notice when I was reviewing your site earlier that you've got things like contract write-ups and like those sorts of things. Where, as a sidestep, we're now living in a world of AI. I live and breathe it every single day. And someone, when you were talking about property management earlier, I laughed because I'm working with a property management company. Smartphone is just launching an AI agent marketplace inside the smartphone, where you'll be able to hire inbound, outbound voice, call coaching, scoring, all sorts of agents. And I'm working with a property management company to build an inbound, a lease management, a leasing agent, AI agent, as well as a maintenance request agent. And the maintenance request agent is being trained to understand the different levels of escalation. Whether it's plumbing or this or that, and if it's winter and it's heating versus, and depending where you are in Colorado, probably very bad, hot water and heating. But it's trained to be able to escalate, to ask the questions, gather the information 24/7, 365, and can then create the work orders via a webhook. And in version 2, which is probably about 3 months away, based on just stuff, we'll be able to call the plumbing companies and schedule the jobs and all that. I mean, that's where we are with as a phone system, as a phone company. Where are you seeing AI interjecting into some of your world right now?
So Title has some assistive title search things. It's mostly assistive to a real person, though. Company number one is consulting. So it's very dependent upon situational context and ideas that are generated by the person. So we use AI to help with that. We suggest things. And a lot of it is, this is what I want to do. Here's my factors. Attack it, break it down, and see if you can break it, right? And then we build solutions. How could I defend against this sort of situation? Well, the homeowner could claim A, B, and C. And we have to remind it. I don't want to be one-sided here. I want to make sure it's safe, legal, and ethical. But I definitely want the most protection for my client. So we use it as an assistive technology. Same thing in title. You can use AI to assist with title searches and generating a list of title clearance items. Phone system, yeah, obviously order entry and intake and things like that as well.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm so excited about some of the. I was actually doing earlier today. I was on a webinar. I was presenting on a webinar, and they they kind of asked me, "Hey, could you do a live demo of your voice agent?" And live demos are always fun because you're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh Jesus!" But I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Fine, let's go." I popped up my screen share on. I clicked to dial and literally just called one of the. It was an inbound acquisitions agent. First ring, answers the phone, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Walks through, asks me why I'm thinking of selling. What's got me going. I say that there's a medical emergency and I need to raise cash. My wife's in the hospital. Agent immediately comes back with empathy. Talking about that, references it at the end of the call.
Nice.
Keep your head where it needs to be. We'll help you do all this. And the best bit about all this is that it isn't a one-to-one script. It is a trained agent,
Yes.
just like a trained human, that is adjusting to the factors at hand. And I think, over the next 6 to 12 months and 18 months, there's going to be the agentic experience where agents are actually doing things. It's not just a large language model that we're querying,
Yeah.
but that agents are now taking actions, making calls, answering calls, updating things, creating documents, etc. There's an enormous opportunity there for almost every application, and I'd imagine for the creative finance world, it's going to explode at the same pace.
Yeah, I think gathering variables and suggesting, as you said, if it's more than just querying LLMs, then it becomes that can do 2/3 of the consulting piece that my real people do. I think that's true. I'm also excited for the concept of taking automations like CRM automations. They're very linear. They're hard-coded. If this, then that. If it falls outside those parameters, it doesn't work very well.
Doesn't trigger.
But if you can add in an AI evaluator component, hey, if this and this, if this sentiment is true, pursue this line.
Exactly. It's not if this and this. It's here's what we're trying to do. Here's the boundaries that I'm putting on you. You know that you like example. I gave some of the example the other days because with the acquisitions agent, we've had to build boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, you get an acquisition agent that's like someone on the phone goes, "Hey, will you give me $600,000 for my property?" And the acquisition agent can say, "Yeah," and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like walk that back.
You told it to be supportive. What do you want it to do?
Yeah, exactly. You because it's like we've all used ChatGPT when it's like you say, "Oh no, I want more like this," and ChatGPT comes back to you and goes, "What a great idea," and you're like, "Okay, yeah." Tone it down, pal. Like I don't need that much smoke up my ass. Like
yeah, I told it. I'm like, I don't want any back padding or anything like that. I would rather you be adversarial than toxic positivity is not
everything I do is basically the best idea ever.
Yeah.
I know. I definitely think that there is, the agentic experience is going to definitely revolutionize everything. And to your point, the CRM integration is going to no longer be just about data entry. It's going to be, also like go find my best leads to work on right now. Who should I be calling today? Who should I be calling today? Oh, yeah. Call these people. Why? Well, because I figured I looked it up and there was a storm in the area. And like, why not? Like, there are factors, and for our agents, we've actually built in memory to our agents. Our agents actually have memory, and actually can immediately recall conversations that happened months ago. So you can actually build agents that say, hey man, last time we spoke,
Becomes your lead manager.
last time we spoke, you were going to talk to your sister. How'd that conversation go? Like,
Dude.
it's a brave new world.
Yeah, some people see that or hear about it and they're like, well, that's scary. I'm like, not really.
I can't wait.
It's just better systems.
Yeah. Well, and it's freeing up the best players to be the best players.
Yeah.
Performance, the cream usually does rise to the top, and in this case, it's just going to make it easier for the cream to rise to the top. Well, listen, Caleb. I mean, I genuinely enjoyed meeting you, and I'm grateful for you coming on. Aside from me being able to put your, is there anything? How do people find you? What's the best way that people? So I can drop it in the show notes and all of the descriptions.
I think my favorite thing is going to be, hey, just go get my monthly newsletter because I'm anti-guru. So when I have a lossy month, guess what? My real financials are shown. I've got multiple businesses. I've got 4 pieces of real estate. We'll grow that eventually. But sometimes two units are vacant. I'm going to post that. Hey, why is it vacant? Because I was focused on other projects rather than cracking the whip to get them. And that's my fault. That's real life, though. And I'm anti-toxic positivity, too. Like the people who everything's always good and they never talk about that negative. Like, let's talk real life. So calebchristopher.io, grab my newsletter. You'll get my phone number and my email. You can reach out directly. And you can see all the businesses I own and connect with them directly from there as well.
Awesome. Well, listen, it was a genuine pleasure and privilege to have you here. I've learned something, and I also very much enjoyed chatting to you. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for listening to another amazing episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. Head over to thatrealestatetechguy.com to check out all episodes and get special discounts on tons of awesome real estate technology platforms.